to the northwest of Greece, in the Ionian Sea, lies the Greek island of Corfu. Its people lead a simple way of life, and all hold strongly to traditions which have been passed down through many generations. Yet even the strongest traditions cannot hold back those who set their hearts on a dream and a new way of life. And such is the story of Yaanis and his dream. The story of Yaanis begins in the small village of Pitalia, nestled high on rugged Mount Pantocrator in the heart of the island. Yaanis had lived in Pitalia all his life, and the only world he knew was his village and its people. The villagers of Pitalia led an isolated life and survived by hard work and the strength of their traditions. Ever since he was a very young boy, Yaanis helped his family. When he was 12, he finished his schooling and was ready to take his place in the fields by his father's side. For such was the tradition in Pitalia. A farmer's son always became a farmer, just like his father and forefathers. And a daughter followed her mother and learned from her woman's work. Yaanis, a good and loyal son, tilled the fields, worked in the vineyard, and harvested the olives, which were the family's main crop. Yaanis' father was proud of his only son, for Yaanis was the family's hope, and the family's land would someday be his. Yaanis worked with great devotion, but his heart was restless, yearning for new adventures. Most likely, he would have always remained a peasant, except for an event that changed his life. One day, when Yaanis led his family's flock to graze on the mountain, a young goat ran away, and Yaanis went to search for it. He traveled farther up the mountain than he had ever gone before, and so came to the top of Mount Pantocrator. From there, for the first time in his life, he saw the sea that surrounded his island. Yaanis was overpowered by a sudden desire to make his life there. That night, he dreamed he was a fisherman on the sea. Yaanis kept his dream a secret and wondered if it would ever come true. His ways changed. He no longer enjoyed his friends and their games, and his mind was not on his work. Slowly, he closed himself away from the people around him. His father was worried by his son's strange behavior. "The boy does not listen to me anymore," he said to Yaanis' mother. "Perhaps he's listening to voices within him," she explained. So Yaanis' father decided to have a talk with his son. "I dream about the sea. I want to be a man of the sea," confessed Yaanis. "We all have dreams," replied his father, "but one should be wise enough to distinguish between true and false dreams, and you are still too young to make that decision. Forget your dreams." But Yaanis could not. His mind was only on the sea. So his father took him to talk with Spiros, the village elder, hoping that he would open Yaanis' eyes. When Spiros heard of Yaanis' desire, he was surprised. "You think the life of a fisherman is any easier than ours? I know of the sea and how cruel it can be." But Yaanis was not convinced. "I want to go there and become a fisherman," he said. "You know nothing of storms that drown ships and men. The sea is evil. If you're unhappy with the life of a farmer, learn a new craft that our village needs so you can stay with your people. This is your place, and here you should be." Yaanis agreed to take Spiro's advice. With heavy heart, his father allowed him to become an apprentice to the baker in the nearby village. Yaanis helped the baker, but the salt and the water made him think only of the sea and not of his work. So he left to work for the shoemaker, but his hands longed to feel the coolness of water instead of leather. Then he went to work for the tailor, but the cloth reminded him of boat sails. Finally, he ended with a carpenter. But while he worked, he was thinking only of building a boat. Yaanis was good with his hands and became skilled in all of these crafts, but his heart was still far away, and so he went home to his family. Yaanis' father was happy. Yaanis is going to be a farmer like me, he thought. But he soon found that Yaanis had not forgotten his dream and was even more certain of his desire to become a fisherman. Now Yaanis' father was full of sorrow. "You are my only son and my only help in the fields. Soon I'll be too old to work the fields. If you leave us, what will happen to our land? What will happen to us? Why can't you be what you are meant to be?" Yaanis was silent. He did not want to cause grief to his parents, but he could not forget his dream.
Πάει αγόρι μου, γιατί δεν τρως?
Yaanis' mother felt the depth of her son's sadness and decided to speak to her husband. "The boy is dying inside," she said to him. "We must do something about him, for we cannot tear the dream from his heart." Finally, Yaanis' father agreed. Perhaps the hard life of a fisherman will teach him a lesson. Let him try, and when he fails, he'll be free of his foolish dream forever.
Δεν νομίζω, δεν το πιστεύω για να ξαναγυρίσει εδώ.
I'll let him go till harvest time, but then he must come back and be a farmer as he is meant to be. The next morning, Yaanis packed his few belongings, said farewell to his family, and left on his way to the sea.
Γεια σου Γιάννη, σου καλό.
Γεια σου Γιαννάκη, να μας θυμάσαι.
His mother felt that her son would never return. "Do not grieve," Yaanis' father consoled her. "He'll be back soon, for a farmer will always be a farmer." Yaanis made his way down the mountain feeling free and happy. Each step brought him closer to the sea.
Για φούντος είναι για φλόγα που απόψε στην καρδιά, λες και μαγιά μου έχεις κάνει, φράγκο Συριανή γλυκιά, λες και μαγιά μου έχεις κάνει, φράγκο Συριανή γλυκιά.
Later that day, Yaanis reached the large village of Spatilas, far down the mountain slopes. He had never been beyond this village. He asked the men sitting outside the village cafe the way to the sea, and told them he was going there to become a fisherman. Just follow the road, they said, and wondered why anyone would want to go to the sea when the land was so blessed.
Κάτω στην ακρογιαλιά, κύτταρα να σε
Yaanis passed many peasants who were returning from the fields and groves and joyfully told them of his goal. They all wondered about the strange farm boy who wanted to be a fisherman, yet Yaanis did not mind. Before nightfall, Yaanis found a deserted hut off the road and lay down to sleep. It was his first night away from home. Yet Yaanis was not afraid, for his heart was yearning for tomorrow. Next morning, when the dew was still on the ground, Yaanis hurried on his way. He walked through the olive groves, down the hills, and came to the green plateau. Yaanis finally reached the sea. Yaanis was overwhelmed with joy. Now he was full of hope, and he knew he was getting closer to his goal. When he reached the city of Kerkira, the capital of Corfu, he felt lost, but his courage did not leave him. He found his way to the marketplace and asked the fish merchants where he could go to find work with the fishermen. They pointed the way to the big port of the city, but no one among the fishermen in the harbor wanted or needed him. Yaanis was not discouraged, and thus he began his travels along the coast. He stopped at every harbor and talked to every fisherman he saw asking for work. But he was only laughed at. None would trust a peasant boy. After 5 days of searching, hungry and tired, he reached the fishing village of Petriti at the south side of the island. The children of the village laughed at Yaanis, the peasant boy who wanted to be a fisherman. Finally, a woman took pity on the stranger and took Yaanis to her home. When Yaanis told her why he had come there, she could not hide her concern. "But what will you do here? You know nothing about fishing," she said. "Oh, I can learn," insisted Yaanis. "Forget your dream," advised the woman. "I know the dangers of the sea, for it took away my husband. You better go home to your poor mother." Yaanis knew how sad his mother was when he left, but he was too proud to surrender his dream. Then the woman said, "There is no man to help me, so you may stay here for a while, but you must work for your keep." And so Yaanis stayed at her house. Every afternoon he'd go to the pier and ask the fishermen for work. But they always replied, "We have no time to teach you. Our sons help us when we need it. They are learning to be fishermen just like their fathers and forefathers." Though Yaanis could only watch, and he soon saw how hard their life was. At times, the fishermen would pull in empty nets and earn nothing for their hard work. Despite that, Yaanis did not forsake his dream. and finally decided to become a fisherman on his own. Made a pole with his own hands and went fishing. The children of the village jeered the peasant boy and his failures, for even the smallest among them knew better than Yaanis. One day, Yaanis met an old fisherman whose name was Kostas. When the man saw how eager he was to learn, he decided to share his knowledge with Yaanis and taught him the secrets of fishing. From then on, Yaanis spent all his free time with Kostas and began to learn the skills of a fisherman. Even so, no fisherman wanted the peasant boy. Days went by, and harvest time was near. Yaanis knew that he would soon have to return to his family, as he had promised his father. Then, one day, a fisherman from the village suddenly became sick. The fishermen were looking for another man to take his place.
Έχω άνθρωπο, έχω ένα παιδί. Το έμαθα καλό παιδί.
Ήρθε να ψαρέψουμε.
Είναι πολύ καλός. Πάρ' τον εγώ το έμαθα. Είναι πολύ καλό παιδί.
Εντάξει, εντάξει.
Kostas convinced them to take Yaanis. And so, Yaanis finally sailed out to sea. It was the happiest day of his life. At first, the fishermen took Yaanis lightly, but they soon found that the peasant boy had the hands of a born fisherman. Yaanis sent news of his success to his parents, and when his father heard it, he said, now that he has fulfilled his dream, he will come home. But Yaanis' mother knew differently. A man is born to find his dream, she said, and our son has found his. It's time we accept it, for Yaanis is becoming a man, and now he must choose his own way.
Για φούντος για φλόγα που έχω απόψε στην καρδιά. Λες και μαγιά μου έχεις κάνει φράγκο Συριανή γλυκιά. Λες και μαγιά